name is Kylie Schofield, and today I'm going to be informing everybody about the mRNA vaccine. So since the creation of the mRNA vaccine, there have been a lot of conspiracy theories as to its potential harm within your body. And so I'm hoping to inform you about what the mRNA vaccine does inside of you to hopefully give you scientific information so that whenever you're in that decision between should I get the mRNA vaccine or not, you'll have scientific knowledge as opposed to conspiracy theories. So let's begin by talking about what a vaccine is and how it works in your immune system. So a vaccine is generally, but not limited to, you injecting a substance into your body to trigger an immune response by your immune system. And your immune system is basically a shield that sort of protects you from harmful pathogens that are inside your body and reacts to it accordingly to get rid of the substance. So whenever you have a vaccine, it's this initial exposure into your immune system, which causes a primary immune response. After some time, your immune system and antibodies that are being produced for that immune response start to deteriorate. And if you are given a secondary exposure, or say the natural virus at a later time, your immune system will know how to respond to that specific virus and that pathogen within you because it had that prior exposure. And so it sort of works like your brain and how whenever you're re-exposed to different things, you memorize it and you're able to respond accordingly to it, and the next time you get it. So, for example, in the 1700s, you have the Chinese Buddhist monks who would take small dosages of snake venom, and over time they would become immune to snake venom. So this process of trying to immune yourself from prior exposures helped to create vaccines. So the first vaccine was developed in 1796 by Dr. Edward Jenner, and he was the first person to do an arms-to-arms method vaccination, where he took an individual who had cowpox and got he got a sample from them and injected it into another individual, which would eventually eradicate the smallpox epidemic in the UK. And that created the hepatitis, your seasonal flu vaccine, and so forth. So vaccines have been a thing for a very long time. So let's take a look at what mRNA is, because you naturally have it in your body all the time, and it makes you look and be the way that you are. So you have DNA inside of your cell's nucleus, and so you can think of that as a cookbook, which has a compilation of just recipes and instructions for a ton of different things. And so through the process of transcription, you have RNA, which a specific type of it is mRNA, which is messenger RNA. And you could think of RNA as being a specific recipe that you've taken out of your book. So once you have the RNA, you leave the nucleus and you interact with ribosomes, which you can think of those as being yourself who's actually making and reading, interpreting this recipe to make your protein or your food item. And so that's basically this process of the central dogma. And this is a very basic description of the central dogma, but this is how RNA works inside. So now let's combine what a vaccine is and the mRNA within that vaccine. So here is a COVID-19 particle, and so you can see all these little red attachments, and those are known as spike proteins. And these spike proteins are what make this strain of virus specific and unique. So you're taking the SARS virus and getting this specific COVID-19 based off of those spike proteins. Now, our immune system responds to these spike proteins by creating antibodies, which I like to think of it as Batman versus Joker, because they have a good versus evil and they're counterparts to each other and sort of make it complete. So these antibodies are being attracted to these specific spike proteins, and they vary depending on the spike protein itself. So looking at a natural virus particle, the spike proteins itself will allow it to attach onto your healthy cells, and the virus itself will inject its DNA, which will cause you to be sick. But the spike proteins themselves aren't actually making you sick. So whenever you have an antibody attach onto these spike proteins, the virus can no longer attach onto your healthy cells, and so it'll just bounce off. And so that is what keeps you healthy, even if you have the virus inside of you. So in to sort of combine this, so you get your injection of the mRNA vaccine, which basically codes the recipe for the spike protein. So you're basically tricking your body into making this spike protein for the specific virus, and in this case it'd be for COVID-19. So you're triggering an immune response within your immune system to create these mRNA, to activate the B cells, to create antibodies that correspond to that spike protein, so that if you are to become infected in the future, you have an immune defense already lined up to be able to fight against those spike proteins. So just to recap, we've looked over what a vaccine is and how it helps your immune system respond to future exposures, how the mRNA is naturally inside your body and can help you create these spike proteins for the virus. And so this overall creates the mRNA vaccine. And so hopefully you'll be able to make a decision as to whether or not to get the mRNA vaccine based off this information. And thank you for watching. These are my references.